We all know President Trump seems to enjoy courting controversy, but some of his recent decisions have led to pushback from some of his own supporters. The war with Iran goes against a campaign promise of no new wars, and his comments on the Pope have surprised Catholics. We're joined now by someone in a unique position to address all of this, Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, a close ally of the president. She's also the author of a new book called Poisoned Ivies, the inside account of the academic and moral rot at America's elite universities. Congresswoman, so good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Great to be back on CBS this morning.
Yes, nice to see you. Let me ask you, I actually spoke with President Trump yesterday, and he doubled down on his condemnation of Pope Leo, saying he's wrong on the issues and more. You are a Roman Catholic. I mean, has this gone too far, this rift between the president and the Pope?
And he said he's weak on crime. Yeah. The Pope is weak on crime.
Well, first of all, I think the President of the United States is focused on national security and policy issues. And as a Catholic, I don't want to see the Pope weighing in on domestic U.S. politics or, frankly, national security politics. I think what the Pope should continue to focus on is this historic surge of numbers of new Catholics that are joining the church, Nora. There's been wide coverage of that. In terms of the war in Iran, I sit on the Armed Services Committee. I remember the first interview you and I had was at the House Armed Services Committee. I also sit on the House Intelligence Committee. President Trump has been very consistent, as have members of Congress and House Republicans, that Iran cannot have access to nuclear weapons capabilities. And I think he's making the right decision, and we've certainly supported him from the Congress on the Armed Services Committee and the congressional majority.
But what are your thoughts to Nora's question, though, about the president attacking the Pope? How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I think the president, we know his leadership style, and we know that he doesn't mince words. And I was disappointed to see the Pope politicizing and getting engaged in politics. The president of the United States is a political figure and is going to stand up for his policies. So I certainly support not only the war in Iran, but I'm proud as a Catholic that we have an American Pope. And I'm also proud to see the historic number of new Catholics joining the church.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that Pope Leo's language sharpened was directly after when President Trump said he was going to wipe out an entire Iranian civilization. So that's a moral issue. That's an issue of just war.
But what happened that same day, Nora, is the Iranians were forced to come to the table. It led to the ceasefire. It led to talks. And President Trump, we know, look, we're a decade into this, about his leadership style. It's not the traditional diplomatic leadership style that, frankly, has failed in the past. It is very effective. It brought the Iranians to the table. And certainly the talks didn't go well in Pakistan because Iran did not agree to giving up nuclear weapons capabilities. And I strongly support our effort to make sure that we do not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapons capability and that we bring peace to the Middle East in the long term. You're talking about a terrorist regime that has financed Hamas and Hezbollah, that has U.S. troops' blood on their hands over the course of decades. So this is not like this is a new conflict. This is decades, going back to 1979, Nora.
What did you make of the president posting a picture where many said it looked like a Christ-like figure? Many Catholics were offended, calling it blasphemous. He said, the president said that he was really portraying a doctor and talked about the Red Cross. What did you think? Were you offended by that picture?
You know, he took it down. I was not personally offended. I know the president posts various images, memes online, and in this case, he said he took it down and he thought it was something else than what other people thought it was depicted.
Did it look like a doctor to you?
Honestly, Gayle, I've been so focused on launching my book that I sort of missed that whole controversy. Okay. And yesterday he said that it had been taken down.
Well, it was everywhere, Congresswoman. Let's
so is this book everywhere.
Yeah, let's talk about Congress.
Look at that's a good pivot.
Let's talk about Congressman Eric Swalwell.
Sure.
A colleague of yours. What do you make of him resigning? Is that the right thing for him to do? And
absolutely. He needs to resign.
Were those charges a surprise to you?
You know, I think that Kevin McCarthy was vindicated a few years ago when he removed Eric Swalwell from the Intelligence Committee. Members of Congress know when there are concerning activities, and I think it was a failure of leadership to not address these earlier, of individuals in both parties, because you not only had the resignation of Swalwell, but you also had the announcement of the resignation of Tony Gonzales. It used to be the fact that the leaders would bring them in and force them to resign. In this case, it's been the public pressure. It is heinous. It is absolutely disgusting. And every member needs to look at themselves in the mirror. And if there is any type of this horrible activity going on, sexual harassment of staff or relationships in these cases, or horrible outreach on social media, they need to step down.
Do you think people in Congress were aware of his behavior?
I think it was sort of hush-hush. It was kind of an unspoken understanding. And
really?
yeah, and it's one of the reasons why he was removed from the House Intelligence Committee. That was the correct decision made a few years ago.
Right. There might be some other members of Congress who also there's rumors about.
And that's why I say people need to look in the mirror, and if they know if they've conducted themselves inappropriately and frankly and illegally, particularly when it comes to staff, they need to resign.
Let's talk about your book, Poisoned
Which is everywhere,
Ivies.
she says. Nora.
Yes, and here on CBS this morning.
Interesting title, Poison Ivy.
Yeah, you have accused these college campuses, including your own alma mater of Harvard, of being a hotbed of radical ideology and anti-American hatred. Has anything changed since you first brought attention to this issue?
I would say a lot has changed. It led to an earthquake in higher education. Not only have you seen the resignations of university presidents, but you've seen more of a focus on pursuing academic excellence and moving away from political indoctrination. I would also say we've seen changes in matriculation and admissions rates. If you're looking at the fact that both parents and students are voting with their feet and wallets, for example, Vanderbilt is more competitive to get admitted to now. Did you go to Vanderbilt?
No, but
you're not.
I have children that have applied to college.
That's
so
exactly.
I know this story.
That's more competitive than some of the Ivy Leagues traditionally. So people are looking at schools that are focused on academic excellence and not this anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism that skyrocketed. And it really was unrecognizable to me. I myself, as you said, I graduated from Harvard. It was not like that when I was there 20 years ago. And that hearing heard around the world, which is the most watched testimony ever in the history of Congress, I think that displayed the challenges and the turning point we're at in higher education.
All right. Well, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you announced that you're not going to be returning to Congress. You're happy with that decision?
I am.
What are your plans?
It was the right decision for my family. It was the right decision professionally and politically. You know, I did my first interview when I was first elected on this show.
We remember.
And
we remember.
I don't think these positions you should be in for your lifetime. So I'm excited for what's next, and I'm excited for more time with my 4-year-old Sam.